And we are live. Welcome back we are at the Ribbon Candy Hooking Channel. We are Tigger. Good morning. Happy International Punch Needle Day. I am Deanna from Ribbon Candy Hooking.
And I'm Rebecca from Storyteller Wool.
And we're here this morning to celebrate, have breakfast with you maybe, and celebrate International Punch Needle Day before the other events of the day take place, right? There's going to be a lot going on today to celebrate International Punch Needle Day. But we're coming to you this morning. I know people are logging on. I can see Scramble right now. Just let us know, as usual, as you log on, that you can see us both in the split screen. You can hear us both, and that everything technically is working in our favor. Kirsten, good morning. Happy International Punch Needle Day to you, too. It is cold and cloudy in Vermont. Well, it is the perfect day to stay inside. Same here. How about in Colorado, Rebecca? Is it any good?
It's actually snowing.
Oh, stop
it. We had what, I know other states have this, but we have full spring.
Yeah.
The last 2 weeks, it's been warm. Everyone's been outside. I changed all my shoes, reorganized my closet. Now it's snowing.
That is rough. See, Karen has been logging on and telling us about predictions of snow, and I'm thinking she must be out of her mind. It can't possibly be snowing, but it is.
And she gets more snow than we do. She's a couple hours south, and
oh my gosh.
They always get worse weather than we do.
Oh my gosh, it's a mixed bag. And Catherine is logging on. In Missouri, it's rainy and windy there as well. Good morning. Good to see you. Kaz logged on. Good morning, Deanna and Rebecca. We can see you and hear you. Sounds great. Heidi's logging on from Belgium, so we will say Goede Eva. Great to see you and welcome. My mom logged on. She's saying hello to you too, Rebecca.
Hi. Can't wait to see you soon.
She says she sees both of our beautiful faces on the split screen. Well, that is nice to start out with a nice compliment like that. I'll take that. Great. Linda B., great to see you. I'm just going through the comments. There's Karen. It is snowy for you too. Welcome. Kaz says she loves your pin, Rebecca.
Oh, thanks. I got it at a fiber festival.
Did you? Oh, it's very pretty. Cheryl, great to see you on Cape Cod. I hope you're recovering okay. You are interested in learning punch. Well, you might be in the right place. Welcome. Good to see you. And D. Wright, great to see you. Good morning from Boise. Great to see you and welcome. Beverly, great to see you in Oregon. Sylvain, welcome back from Quebec. Great to see you. We were together last night. Lots of buddies logging on. Colleen Rourke, will you record? It is recording automatically, so it will appear later. So if you missed part of it, the video will be there. It takes a little while, a couple hours after the live stream to kind of calibrate itself, but then it's there for all of posterity. So yes, it will be there for you. Barbara, great to see you. And she says, great to see you. And Rebecca, great to see you too. Great. Everything is working well. Heidi and Tom Curtin, hello from Iowa. Great to see you. Welcome everybody. I'll keep an eye on the thread as we go along so we can welcome everybody in. But we plan to be here for about an hour and a half because we know on this all-important International Punch Day, certainly the counterpart to our International Rug Cooking Day, which we celebrated not that long ago, we're having this event in the morning for you, kind of the appetizer, the breakfast, before a larger event, which, Rebecca, do you know the details of the Oxford event today?
So I always get time zones mixed up, but I want to say it's 1 o'clock Eastern.
Okay. And I bet somebody will confirm. Rita logged on last night. I think she said 1 to 4.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. I think we can confirm that because that's what she said last night anyway. So, and she's in a different time zone. So that'll be happening later. So the idea is if you'd like to be here with us, we are here for a while to talk about punching, to talk about our projects, to talk about what Rebecca's working on. She's got a beautiful new project started. To talk about punching. Maybe you can. Do you have your punch tools out? Can you show us some tips later? Can you do any of that kind of? I'm just hitting you with this cold turkey.
If you turn the camera off for a second, I can go get them, but I don't have them within arm's reach.
We'll see how it goes. I'm working on a punch project as we talk myself. I think Rebecca's going to do a lot of the heavy lifting today. We'll see how it goes. Barbara says 1 to 4. Okay, everybody's confirming 1 to 4. So you know that you have that for the rest of the day. It sounds by all accounts to be a miserable weather day right across the continent. Heidi, maybe you've got the sun over there in Europe, I hope. But it seems like a nice day to kind of snuggle in and work on your projects. Martha, great to see you in Newfoundland. Welcome. Yes, 1 to 4, Heidi says, for Robin. So, one of the things that we've got going on, I want to look at some projects that are past patterns for International World Cooking Day. And we're going to do that in just a minute. But I also want to remind you that Rebecca has designed, and I hope that you saw it. You probably did if you caught this post and were able to log on. Rebecca designed a beautiful punch piece. Do you have that near you? That
Yes, it's the sheep are on top of it right now.
Yes. It's violets. We can look at it later, right? We can look at, but
It's a mud
Rebecca,
rug.
and I took the liberty, you called it violets. I took the liberty of referring to it as Newport violets.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's their state, Rhode Island state flower is what I was basing it on. But
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. So I was giving it a little Tigger twist
yeah,
because we are president and vice president of Tigger, as I think many of you know. So we can talk about that a little bit during our time together too. And you are very welcome to ask us questions in the thread. I can see the thread. Rebecca can't because she's a guest. She's on camera. So I'm going to be relaying comments in the thread. But you are very welcome and encouraged to ask questions of either of us in the thread or ask questions that are specific about Tigger, about punch needle, whatever you like. So before we start looking at Sharon, great to see you in sunny Vancouver. Doris is logging on from the Missouri Ozarks. Great to see you. Welcome to you both. I want to look at some of the past patterns that have been put out for International Punch Needle Day. But I wanted to preface it by saying that the extra pattern that you did for Tigger of the Newport Violets is available, is there as a download. If you're coming to this late or you heard about it at the last minute or last night on cocktail time, that pattern that Rebecca designed is there for you. We'll look at that a little bit later, but it is a beautiful pattern and another opportunity today to snuggle in and punch something different. So that will be there for you. Whitney is logging on in rainy New York. Betty
yeah.
and Cormier is logging on in Quebec. Great to see you. So let's start by looking at some of the past punch needle patterns from past International Rug Cooking Days. Samantha, great to see you. Rita, great to see you. I'm going to start here. Rebecca, because you can't see the screen, I'm going to show you. Oh, right now Karen is working on Newport Violets. So she's actually got that on her frame. I want to ask that question in just a minute. I want to know what you all are working on, and we'll show you or tell you about what we're working on as well. Let's look at the past. Okay, something happened that is unexpected. Okay, hold on. I got this. I can figure this out. I can figure this out. Hold on 1 second. I know I'm putting things away. And why is it not showing me? Okay, for some reason it's not showing me the first pattern. It's going to show me the second pattern. So, okay, so something's up with the first pattern. I'm going to hold on the first pattern for a second. I'm going to show this on camera real quick. The others appear to be working. God knows why that one isn't. Just Murphy's having some fun, I guess. So, Rebecca, I want to show you this one first as one of the past
Okay.
patterns.
All right. Yeah. So that's from 2021. And Katie Stackhouse was the ambassador that year. And I haven't actually tucked up behind me. I can see it.
Do you have
Uh,
this one?
yeah. So that was a really fun pattern. And I did some sculpting on that. So the dark blue and the birds and the flowers are raised up. So
Ooh.
I punched, and as I punched down, I held it
Ooh.
from the underside to extend the loop, and then I sculpted it.
Oh, I see. So when you punched it, because obviously for beginners, right, punches worked typically in reverse, right?
Yes.
And there is such a sort of big movement now for people who like punching the back. They like the way it looks. It looks a little bit more like needlework, like embroidery. It's a little bit tidier and there is no pile. But in general, punches worked from the back. The
Yeah,
working side is the reverse.
and the loops appear on the other side. And punching, you're only using one hand, but to get that really raised effect, the highest punch of the Oxford punch creates a ½ inch loop. The Craftsman needle goes up to a 1 inch, but you can achieve a larger loop by reaching under. And if you're a traditional rug hooker, you're used to having your hand under, reach under, and when the needle's fully engaged, you hold the yarn, and as you pull back, you're creating a much longer loop, because if you're not holding it, the needle's folding it in half to create the loop. And so then you have
Whoa.
these much larger loops that you can then sculpt.
Whoa, that's a great tip. I have not heard that ever. That's a
I do
great
that.
tip.
I do that quite a bit
Okay.
because you can create all different effects. You can create a neat flower, or then you can trim it and
Mm,
sculpt it, and you've got sort of a pom pom look. In fact, something we're going to look at later, I have some sculpting that I can show that I did with the punch needle.
gosh. So when you're doing that technique, when you're holding the loop underneath, um, is it ever that you like struggle with making them even? Okay, so
Yes,
that's the
very good
thing.
question. So I decide, as the yarn comes out of the needle, you can hold it right where it comes out. You could hold it halfway up, but wherever you need to be consistent. If you wanted a consistent look, if you're going to sculpt it and cut it, anyways, it doesn't matter as much.
Okay.
But yeah, you punch, and I chant. I go punch, hold, pull, punch, hold, pull, and then that's how I get my bigger loops
That
and
is
then pull.
absolutely brilliant. Do you have an opinion on if people do want to clip their punched loops? Do you have an opinion on what like a safe length is?
Oh, I sculpt it pretty far down. The
Okay.
main thing is density then.
Okay.
I will punch it a lot tighter than I ordinarily would,
Yeah.
so that increases the tension. And then I think about the end use of the project. If it's, well, here I got a pillow right here. So this is all sculpted
Oh yeah.
and it's quite dense.
Yeah.
And this is a pillow I lean against all the time. I use, but now if I had a small child that might want to get there and start plucking at things,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
might think about that, or I might,
Yeah.
oh,
Or a
hang on,
cat, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Because your
But
your
over
dogs
time,
would not do that.
one of the beauties of rug yarn is its coarseness, and this is a 4-ply rug yarn. And so over time, the plies begin to separate, and then it almost begins to felt itself
Okay.
with all the use.
Yes.
So I I just wouldn't do that in a rug, but I do it in pillows.
Okay.
And then another note on that piece,
Yeah.
all the International Punch Needle Day pieces are 8 by 8,
Okay.
which is a small size. And what do we do with 8 by 8s?
Yeah.
So that's why I added that protty edge to beef it up a bit and create a pillow.
Well, it's funny you said that because I'm looking at the comments and Ruth just said, Richard and I are here. She said, I enlarged the violet pattern so that I could make it into a throw pillow.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
scaling it
I
up.
designed that as a little mug rug,
Yeah.
and you'll see why I was purposely going for a small scale on that
Hmm.
one. But that design, we could be a huge rug if you wanted it to be.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great reminder. I know because there's a lot of beginners who will log on as well, right? And I'm very happy and grateful for that. Good morning, Fire Love 365, and good morning, Jessica. Good to see you. I'm always grateful to have beginners log on, and it is important, I think, for all of us, not just beginners, to repeat things that are sort of central and the most important uh, possible pratfalls with both hooking and punching, right?
Yeah, and
Um,
you can always alter a pattern,
yeah,
or you can take like the International Punch Needle Day pattern, put it on a larger piece of foundation cloth, and add borders to it.
yeah.
Or especially this year's pattern, you could take it and do it in fours, um, and make a
Ooh.
much larger piece, and that would look neat.
Oh, that is a good idea. That's a great idea. Let's look at the next. This one should show up for you. I'm hoping that showed up right over our faces. Rebecca, this is the one with the bee and all of the quilly around it.
Okay, so that's Christy Beniston. That was 2019, and there's an example of a small piece. What do you do with it? So I found that shelf thing at the thrift store,
Uh-huh.
and it had this indent. And I had previously turned the bee into a pillow, but it was just such a tiny pillow. So I took it apart, which I like to always remind people, you're not stuck with what you've done. If you've created something, you can change your mind. And so I took apart the pillow and I set it in the inset of that shelf. And then I used quillies to fill in the remaining area.
Yeah, it is more of a. I kind of cropped it in the photo. It is more like a furniture piece, right? So it's really cool that you kind of built it onto something else.
Yeah, that hangs to the left of my computer, and it has 4 hooks, and that's where all my scissors hang.
Oh, that's very cool. So it's very utilitarian as
Yeah.
well. Beverly says, I'm a beginner. Thank you for welcoming newbies. Always, right? Always.
Yeah.
And it's always worth just saying things that pop into your head that you feel are useful tips. Because here, let me get rid of this for the moment. Because we forget stuff that's important too. Even as a person who works on hooking and or punching all the time, sometimes you do forget things that are important, or you forget a great tip that you were doing, and it kind of like it's hardwired, but then it kind of disconnects, like an old telephone switchboard, like something gets unplugged, and when someone repeats it or says it, and you go, oh, of course, that makes a lot of sense. This will
Yeah.
make life easier.
Well, and the way my brain works, and none of us are getting any younger, I think reminders are great.
Yeah,
And it's just
absolutely.
refreshing.
So Colleen, I see your message. She's saying your voice is a little bit garbled sometimes, and it's like the picture's coming and going, but it's at the moment not distracting. I think the thing is, it is snowing where you are, so we get the weather mixed in. But I think in general we're pretty good. We'll keep an eye on it, but everything is optimal in terms of what we can do, and we'll just hope that the weather cooperates and it doesn't get distracting. For me, it looks very good so far, so good. Fingers crossed. And Sharon asks, can I see the cushion again? She wants to see the flower petals. I think the flower petals were Prati.
Yes.
Yes.
Wait.
The
Oh, the
cushion you
cushion.
just held up.
Yes, yes.
Yep. Yes.
So this is a honey beehive pattern.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So this is called Burnham Burnham flowers.
Okay. Like Ralph Burnham. I'm,
Yes.
yep.
So
I'm going to make you bigger. Hold on one second. I'm going to make you bigger.
all
There we
right.
go.
So we'll go around the pillow. So let's. So yes. So this right here was a rose in the original pattern,
Yep.
and I actually hooked this twice. So I hooked it completely flat, and this was a shaded rose, and then I hooked it. And I loved the piece, but I thought it wasn't me. So I
Okay.
hooked it a second time how I wanted, and I love to combine techniques. So we've got, sorry, it's always reverse. So we've got
It
the
is.
rows. I took very thick, like blanket weight wool and did the veins. So this is just standing wool. This is just a really thick strip on its side to create the veins.
Oh, and did you
Yeah.
the standing wool? You sewed that to the backing
Yes.
material? Okay.
So I sewed that on and then hooked around it.
Yep.
And then in here, this was punched and then sculpted. So that was that same where I punched and held to get it higher. And
Okay.
then here I punched it. And this is an example, like this little guy's a little flat. It's just like giving a haircut once you cut it back. But I could have repunched it if I wanted to and sculpted it again.
Yeah, it
And
looks
then
great. Some haircuts are from Supercuts, right?
yeah, and then there's a little quilly in here. Um, and then this is sculpted as well. And yeah, more of that. And then the back is all punched. So I often will do that where I might hook the main motif and then punch the background.
You do a lot with, you do a lot of your pieces turn into great sort of sampler pieces because you love to combine methods and
Yeah.
techniques. Yeah. That's one of the things I always love about your work is it is like they're always this sort of cornucopia or potpourri of different techniques and effects, and that always is interesting. D. White says, "Thank you, Reba, for sending the link." Duan. It sounds encoded, but I know there's a message in there. I'm glad that you all got the link and you were able to join us. Let me just ask you before we look at the rest of the sort of official International Punch Needle Day patterns. You as a certified Oxford teacher, right? Kaz is another certified Oxford
Huh?
teacher that's on. Um, if there's other punchers or other punch teachers on, go ahead and introduce yourselves here so we can say hello. We'll do like the equivalent of like standing up when we play your song, right, on this day. Um, Sharon says, thanks. I would love to do an ocean themed pillow with those techniques.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. I'm going to continue my thought, but I'm really taken by the idea of punching and holding the
Yeah.
loop underneath.
I
That
do that
really is
all
so
the time.
smart. And I wouldn't have thought to do that. I just struggle with different heights, different needles, washers on needles to get a different length. But of course, and I'm such a hands-on person too, and it never occurred to me I could just pinch the thing, grab the
Yeah.
thing, and be manhandle it until it's exactly the right height. How does one who the people who create the patterns, the designated patterns for International Punch Needle Day, they are Oxford certified teachers?
Yes.
Okay.
And the idea is this pattern is a gift to the community to bring everybody together. And the pattern is always designed with the idea of the beginner.
Okay.
So the ambassador will punch it in the most accessible manner. And it's often then other people in the community that kind of try different techniques but the idea is we want it to go out there and someone who's never punched before is like, oh, this free pattern. And then they, um, maybe they can find a local community or just try it on their own. And the pattern comes with very robust directions. So
That's great. And you want
that's
them
the
to be
hope with it.
successful. Yeah.
It's a community event.
That's very nice. And it's on the easy side because you want everybody to do it well and to feel satisfied that they've done a nice job and it's not a pig's breakfast and
Yeah.
everything came
And
out good.
so I was the ambassador for 2 years because it was over COVID and things, everything was weird. And so the second year, I decided to do a pattern that was more geared for the fine punch needles.
Okay.
And we'll look at that one. But that was a learning experience for me as an educator that pattern wasn't simple enough.
Okay.
And it did challenge some people. Uh, but the pattern the year before was a lot more accessible. So
It's interesting because that this whole conversation on design is always interesting for me. There is such a fine line between something that is manageable and almost guaranteed to bring success to the student, to the maker, which is obviously ideally what you want, but yet it has to be appealing enough,
right.
that you can sort of relate to it, if not design wise, maybe color wise. Is it hard for you to create beginner patterns for brand new students that are
That
enticing and engaging?
I think because I like to combine techniques and I do struggle with that a little bit. I think I make them a little too complicated.
It's tempting. I mean, it's tempting to make things a bit more detailed, right? Because
Yeah.
then there's a
Well,
bit more
and then do you want
storytelling.
to put up the slide for the one that it looks sort of like a fan?
Yeah, let me see. I'm gonna tell you which one is, that's one we just saw. Yeah, let me show you I'm gonna show you the one that I'm showing into the camera so you can see it. Can you see
Yeah,
that?
that's the
Yep,
one.
okay. Yep, that's the
So
one that's
that
on.
was the second year that I was the ambassador. And the theme, there's always a theme.
Yeah.
And the theme that year was shine. And so
Oh,
it's a great theme, but um, it's a little abstract. So it took me a while to come up with a pattern, and I felt that's based on sort of a papyrus, an Egyptian papyrus plant,
okay.
and it just made me think of shine. I think
Yeah.
the theme was a little bit of a challenge, and then my interpretation of the theme, but that was the pattern that I geared it for the fine needle. I punched it both ways. I punched it with the regular needles and the fine needles, and it definitely shined better uh, with the fine needle. But for beginners, there was a lot of single lines. There was just a lot of things that I mean, because the year before I'd done a flower,
Yeah.
and um, and I can't remember, was that bloom? I can't remember the theme of that year. Uh, but
Hmm.
that flower was more accessible. But I have to say, I enjoyed that pattern.
I
The
love
show.
this pattern. I mean, I love this pattern. This is for me, this is probably the most memorable of the ones that I've seen. And I commend you for not making a sun for the year of shine, because that really
Yeah,
would be like the low hanging fruit, you
yeah.
know? This really is different.
And I sewed sequins on it to give a
I
little
see.
sparkle, and uh,
Yeah,
yeah, I enjoyed that pattern. But everybody likes a flower. That's very approachable. That one was a little different. And I think you also had the COVID effect the year before. We were all stuck at home,
yeah.
so the crocus was very well received. That was that year. Um, and I think when Shine came out, we were trying to get back to our lives, and it was just a different time.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think one of the reasons that flowers are so popular is because I mean they appear in art for like centuries and centuries, but it's so universal. You know, it's such a sign of spring. It's such like a happy. It's like yesterday when I was teaching, I gave this segment on Ukrainian egg design. It sounds really specific, but it was interesting to go through the different motifs from ancient times and to say like, well, the ladder represents, and at least in Ukrainian culture, old age, like
Mm.
ascending, getting higher and higher in years and numbers, in experiences and everything. But then there were the typical symbols that you would expect, like a heart, like a bird, for freedom, like a shaft of wheat for like harvest, a bee for prosperity. It's remarkable. The one that was a real standout, at least on the Ukrainian eggs, was the snake, because I think
Oh.
at least in our culture, a snake is like, oh God, like oh
Mm.
God, like where is a man? This is man's work to remove a snake
Yeah.
from like my sight. But in that culture, it's like the at least the little brown with the snakes with the little round heads, they're like house snakes. And it's like no home, no village home would be complete without this little snake like doing his job, like a little spider. But with the exception of the snake, notable exception, all of the symbols are symbols that we use too. Lots of flowers, lots of suns, lots of
Yeah.
stars. So I think those things are always going to appeal to a lot of people because we've been seeing those motifs all of our lives. It's not like
Right.
something wacky and new.
Yeah.
Um,
As you were talking, I remember what the theme was for the
oh
crocus. It
yeah,
was it was hope. So
okay.
again, that's not as concrete, but it was easy to translate, and I think it's perfect for this time of year. The crocuses are the first flowers that come out. Often, even you'll see them in the snow,
Yeah,
and it's that hope of spring.
yeah.
So,
That is
the
so that is so beautiful. Um, yeah, and I want to build on that thought. Fire Love said, "I'm sorry, I missed where the patterns are offered." So Fire Love, if you are on Facebook, I definitely put them on Ribbon Candy hooking at not Ribbon Candy hooking. I put them on Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club as a post. It's a featured post with a link to this show. If you're already a Tigger member, it's already a post on Tigger. Rebecca, do you know of anywhere else that we've posted? I know we've like slammed the
so for the violets,
the violets.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the violets, I think it shows up on Instagram, Facebook.
Okay.
Um,
And how about that? Just in case she's asking about the Oxford. Where is the Oxford?
so that you go to
Yep.
hookingoutsidethelines.com.
So Robin Whitford's
Yeah,
site.
Robin
Yep.
Whitford's, and you can download it there, and it has complete directions. And I have to look at my website, but the two from when I was ambassador might still be downloadable on my website. I have to check,
Ooh,
so it
that's
might
worth
still be
checking.
there.
So tell them how they can find your website.
So I'm storytellerwool.com,
Mm-hmm.
because those are free patterns. So they should be forever there if you can still find them. But I'll have to ask my tech support if they're still there.
AKA the hubby,
The
right?
husband, yeah.
Or
I do,
Max.
and then I do have a pattern that's sitting on my website. It's a sunflower pattern. There are coasters. That's a free download as well.
Oh, okay, great. So these are great leads, right? These are all these free patterns are out there in the respective places that Rebecca just mentioned. So hopefully you can find them because they will be there for you. And they are there for you to practice on, play with. Ruth like enlarged hers to make a larger piece. You could enlarge them further to make rugs. You could do a repeat, like a tile
Yeah,
design, to make a full size carpet or something for the wall. You could do an Andy Warhol and just do a repeat with different color variations for each block. There's so many things you can do with these patterns. There's so many beautiful patterns. Um, I'm just catching up on the comments. I'm sorry. Martha, you are a certified Oxford Punch instructor. Celebrating you today too, Martha. Congratulations. I'm happy that you're there. I'm sorry I missed that comment earlier on. Samantha asked, for the Oxford needles, is a number 8 a taller loop than a number 10?
yes.
Okay.
So just think everything's reversed. So the 8 is a half-inch loop, 9 is 3/8 inch, the 10 is a 1/4 inch, and then we have our 13 and 14. which are really small ones. So the higher the number, the shorter the loop.
Okay.
So your 8 is your largest loop at a half-inch loop.
And the world just opened up with the pulling of the loops in my mind, because I mean you start with the tool that you're holding,
Yeah.
but then you can. I mean, I'm 99.99% a hooker, and I'm so used to manipulating what I'm doing on the surface of things. To think about doing something underwater with your blind hand under there is liberating and exciting. It's just another trick in your bag of tricks. Well worth mentioning. And Phyllis says Rebecca is an incredible instructor. Loved learning the techniques last fall. That was from Phyllis Detweiler to you. Um, Fire Love 365. Fire Love 365 said, I like the more detailed beginner patterns. I am an adventurous beginner in everything I try. And I hear that too, because there's such there's so many different types of hookers, beginners, whatever. There are experienced hookers, punchers who like to do simpler designs, more contemporary designs, stuff that is a bit more streamlined, and just sort of basic shapes. I don't mean simple. I don't mean boring. I just mean in terms of composition, more basic. But then you get on the flip side the other sort of unicorns, right? The unicorns are at both ends of the spectrum, who are the beginners who are like, I'm into it. I know that I'm going to do it and I'm going to make it work. Give me something complicated right out of the gate. It's funny the huge range of hookers and punchers that exist as students.
And then I'll go through phases. When I work on a piece that's very complicated with lots of different techniques, then maybe the next piece I do is just all one level, one technique, if my brain just wants a rest.
Yeah,
So you can go back and forth.
yeah. In my mind, and this is just my opinion, punching is much more sort of, I don't want to say robotic, but a bit more automatic than hooking. For me, hooking is a bit more, at least the way that I connect with the piece I'm working on, it just for me feels more vibrant. So that's why I lean heavy on hooking as opposed to punching. This is changing my idea of what punching is, having this conversation. And when I see your work, when you come and visit, we'll talk about that too. That always changes how I feel about punching. It has always felt a little bit more robotic to me. So I always tend to be looking for things that you can do with a punch needle that shake up your brain and just are a departure from just the punching. And whenever you talk about pieces that you've done and you show these sort of signature storyteller wool sampler pieces, it reminds me that there are so many different techniques that you can do. And you don't really even have to plan forward to say, like when you did your cushion with the different techniques, or when you do any of your sampler pieces, do you already have it in your head? I'm going to do this part of it with this kind of stitch, or this part of it with this, or do you just figure it out as you go along because you're bored?
I tend to know. I'll look
Yeah,
at it, and usually it starts with a quilly. Like I'll look at a flower and I'll say, "Oh, the center of that needs a quilly," or there'll be a detail that I think I want to sculpt. I tend to know. It doesn't mean that I won't change my mind.
yeah,
I think that's often a misconception that the longer you've been working on something, the less you'll change your mind or the less mistakes you'll make.
yeah,
But I think part of the creative process is trying new things, and you might not like it, and you just pull it out and do something else. I'm always changing my mind on colors. I'll do a piece multiple times. Because often I will do something initially thinking, oh, I might teach this, I might kit this, so I will create it at sort of at one level. And then if I'm making it for myself, then, then I'm just throwing anything I want at it.
yeah. Yeah, it's like it really depends. I feel the same way, and I have the same sort of method. Some people do rug crafts because it's so meditative and it's repetitive and it's relaxing, and you can think your thoughts and work stuff out in your head while your hands are moving, and then you realize that at the same time, magically, you're doing something that's very creative, and then you feel great about that part of it too. But sometimes you're not in that place, and you're in a place where you're more engaged, and you want to do stuff that's more challenging, and you're hungry to learn more techniques, and it's just different times, different mindsets for
Yeah.
different projects.
And where it's going to go. I mean, a rug on the floor is going to have very few different techniques in it because you're standing on it.
That's right.
Where a piece on the wall, you can do all kinds of things.
That's true. Yeah, a little bit more of a get out of jail free card if you're not going to step on it and trip on
Yeah.
it, right? Whitney asks, Whitney says, I love punch needling, but had some uncomfortableness in my wrist. Any suggestions to try? Options for needle or holding it maybe differently?
So, and that's common, and especially when we're new at something, we're gonna over grip the tool,
Yeah.
and our shoulders might be more engaged because we're thinking. The main thing is to make sure your foundation cloth is as tight as possible, especially if you come from a hooking background where we can have our foundation cloth a little looser. The tighter your cloth, the first of all, it's going to make your loops more even, but it reduces the strain on your hand. And then the grid of the foundation cloth, either monk's cloth or linen or rug warp, can only hold so much fiber. So if you're trying to put more fiber than is meant to be in there, it's going to get tighter and tighter, and you're going to have to push harder and harder, and that's going to strain your hand as well. So just making you'll know that you're overwhelming the grid if your piece begins to dome on the other side. It'll begin to puff up and indent on your working side. And then, so tight cloth, make sure you're not over pinching the area. And then a trick you can do is take soap and rub that on the foundation cloth like a white soap, ivory
Bar
soap.
of soap like ivory or whatever. Yeah.
And then some people even use wax, but then there's people who don't like to deal with petroleum products or something. But I guess you could use beeswax. But and honestly, when I first heard this, I was like, no way am I rubbing anything. And then, but then Amy Oxford was like, yeah, do this. And I'm like, well, if Amy says it, then I'll try
Yeah,
it.
right.
And it really did. It allowed the needle to go through the foundation cloth just a little bit easier with the soap.
That's a really great idea because also just like that sort of little romantic quality of if you have a soap that you love the smell, like a
Yeah.
lilac or so, gardenia, like it would be nice to smell it as you work, right?
Yeah.
It's just like another little lift.
And the little hotel soaps. In fact, the soap I have,
Ooh, yeah.
Karen was on the call. I was down teaching in Colorado Springs, and we were talking about it. And she ran to the bathroom and came back with a little hotel soap, and that's what I carry around in my project bag now. This is the soap she gave me.
That's so fun. That's such a fun tip too about the soap. Yeah, all of these little touches to doing this craft. They're so sweet and whimsical. It makes everything. Yeah, I love all the little tips. It makes everything more fun.
But
And
punching is, when we're hooking, it's a more delicate
mhm,
motion.
yes,
So it is a different motion.
yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely is. And yeah, I think it's more familiar because it's like holding a pen, and you're moving it sideways or front ways, or you're just more you. And punching is just more. But then again, hooking is a lot of the pulling up, and that's a lot on your wrist and your thumb, and punching is more of this. So ideally, if you can get comfortable with doing both, even if we're talking about in the same piece, then you're doing some of the pulling up and you're doing some of the punching down, and it just gives your body a rest because just as you say, I mean, every time I do an exercise video, which is like hardly ever, unfortunately, I need to do more. But when I do, they all, the person will sometimes say, make sure you're not, straight, like putting, like you're doing sit ups, make sure you're not like straining your neck, like the back of your neck doesn't hurt. And it always does because I'm always doing the thing incorrect, a little bit incorrectly.
Yeah.
And I need a constant reminder, like like press your head back into your hands so that you don't have that pain. But you do need constant reminders because your body, the older you get, it's awful to say, but a little bit more fragile, a little more
Yeah.
easy to upset, right? I mean, my kids could hang upside down from trees playing video games for 6 hours, and eating fish and ice cream and not having any body problems at all. But when you get a little bit older, everything is just you have to be a bit more thoughtful and
Yeah.
conscious about health.
And I'll set limits for myself. I like to find shows that have very vivid dialogue so I can half watch it.
Yeah.
So I'll say, all right, I'm going to punch or hook for just this show, and then I'm going to stop. And then
Yeah.
I'll go do something else. And that gives the body a break. And so I'll come back and forth to a project because I, I get tunnel vision, and 3 hours will have gone by, and then the next day I can like barely move my hand. So I have to think about that. And then one thing I did do, and this just happened one day, I was working on a very large rug, and I realized I was using my non-dominant hand. I had just switched at some point. And for a long time, I would tell my students, well, if you can brush your teeth with your non-dominant hand, you could probably punch with it. And then I thought, I should probably try this before telling everybody this. So I tried brushing my teeth with my left hand. It's actually easier to punch with your non-dominant hand than it is to brush your teeth with your non-dominant hand. So,
Interesting. And it's
yeah,
funny you said that because Ruth just said that she punches, she switches hands, and she said,
yeah,
"Can I do that?"
yeah. And now my non-dominant hand is a little slower, um, but it allows my hand to have a break. And then with other fiber crafts, when I started spinning, I purposely chose to make my drafting hand my non-dominant hand so I could save my other hand more for hooking. So I just found, I remember reading about it once, that's good for your brain too. So I started doing things like reaching for my cup at dinner with the other hand. Often I'll switch my mouse over to the other hand. And the more you do it, it really does, you get more and more proficient and then you'll be able to punch with both hands.
That's a good tip. It really is practice, right? When you work against your body, it's for me it's never a permanent thing. Like my body will win, but at the end of the day, if you can consciously force it to practice other patterns, that has to be good. It's like a yo-yo. It yo-yos out and it unwinds, and then you have to wind it back up, right? To work it again. It's kind of the same thing. You want to reverse the bad stuff that you're doing with the other stuff, and you just, I guess, do it as often as you can to keep that posture and that body health going. So you have the least amount of crazy problems happening, right?
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Let's see. Betty Ann. She says, "I am." I'm sorry. I'm hooking the velvet pattern Shetty Comp style. I
Mm.
have too many things on my plate right now to try something new. I need to do something not too demanding for me, but we'll try punching it later. That sounds great.
Yeah.
It's good. That pattern is going to come out great as a Shetty Comp pattern.
Yeah. And that's the fun thing about punching and hooking. It's the exact same stitch, just on the other side. So if you see a pattern that is put out by a punching needle person, you can hook it, and vice versa. Just if you find a hooking pattern, just know that it's going to be reversed, which would be problematic with words, but with most things, it just means the boat is facing the other way or something.
Yeah.
If you're hooking it versus
Yeah.
punching it.
Just be careful about the reverse, right?
Yeah.
That's so true. So the class I was teaching yesterday, somebody switched to embroidery and somebody switched to felt needle, and both of those things were possible on the backing fabric because it's just fabric. So I mean, you can use any pattern for any craft. A line drawing is translatable. Everything
Right.
begins with a line drawing.
Like an
Um,
applique pattern could be hooked or punched. A quilting pattern could
that's
be.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
all of it. It's got this beautiful crossover. Um, Fire Love 365 says she's referring to patterns. If it's too simple, it's not interesting to me. Sometimes I wish my brain wasn't like this. Now that's a great point. I feel the same way. I find it hard to stay engaged with patterns that are too simple, and I make my patterns way overcomplicated. The ones I do myself anyway. What kinds of tips can we think of to maybe changing techniques, trying different techniques to take a simple pattern and make it into something that is a lot more challenging?
Well, that's where, like with the bird one we were looking at, that bird pillow,
Yeah,
I then made it more 3D.
yeah,
And just because a line isn't drawn doesn't mean you couldn't add a line.
hmm,
So um, should we could look at this year's pattern,
yep. Let's do it.
because that would be a good example of this.
Okay, let me see. Is it
It's the
the
ripples.
yes? Okay, I've got the purple flowers. Let's come back to that. The purple, like the crocus type flower, the ripples. Let me show you just to confirm that this is the one. That this is the one. Hold on one second. I'm just going to show it to you.
Yes.
Okay.
So that is this year's pattern. That's the one you can download. And when Robin punched it, again, she's thinking about a beginner. She used, let's see, like four or five colors, and each ripple was a solid color. And she also used a fine needle. And when I looked at it, I said, okay, well, that's lovely. But what's really fun about this day is to see how everybody interprets the pattern. So I wanted to try something different than what she was doing so that we could see different things. So I also like to look at a pattern and say, is this a stash busting pattern? Because I always have lots of bits of yarn everywhere. And I thought, oh, this is. So I gathered all blues and greens and all my little bits and thought, okay, I'm just gonna, is it still up? Are they still
Yep,
looking
it's
at it?
up. Yep.
Yeah. And so I was able to interpret it, I thought, in a very different way by putting in all these different colors. So I could have done different needle heights. I could have used different kinds of yarn
Yeah.
to make maybe the outlines of each ripple. I could have used like a shiny, sparkly yarn. I honestly, the first time I started, I wanted to sculpt it. I wanted each ripple to come from a cave as the pebble had hit and it had gone down.
Ooh.
And I still think the pattern would look amazing that way, but I was already going down the road of using all my little colors, and then I couldn't translate as well when I was changing colors. So that idea of um, doing the different needle heights would have been better using more similar colors in each of the ripples. So
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose with simple designs, you once you have it in your head that you're going to challenge yourself with embellishments or with different techniques, they can become quite complicated.
yeah.
Yeah, they are sort of sizable, right? A simpler design is a bit more sizable and
Well, and I think
scalable.
a lot of pattern designers, they're giving you just the outline, and then
Yeah,
it's up to you to take it from there. And
yeah,
you can just like when we're coloring in a coloring book, we could color in each one a solid color, or we could do shading
yeah.
or a different pattern within each section. So um, I think that's sort of the beauty of a pattern, is that each person will interpret it their own way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you could even like with a pattern like this, if you and when I look at it, I think like, oh, wouldn't it be nice if it had text on it? If it had like a line from a song like "Windmills of Your
Yeah.
Mind" or something, and add some text to the swirls.
Hmm.
There's lots of ways you can just like life. There's lots of ways that you can overcomplicate it. It's just do you want to? Ruth says, I think I will tile this pattern and make a rug out of it and put it in the living room with two or three throw pillows to match.
Yeah.
That's a great way of coordinating, isn't it? That's the thing about these simpler patterns. You can, I wonder with this one if you could, you could turn it. I don't think you could turn it into a repeat. I think you would have to tile it, right? Because
Yeah.
it's yeah. It's a great pattern though. It's very different. Let's just go back to the one before. I'll show you. It is the purple flower.
The
It's this
crocus.
one, the
Yeah.
crocus. Yep.
So that was my first year as the ambassador, and that was the hope year.
Oh, that was the hope.
So
Yep.
with that, with a beginner pattern, you want to have some straight lines, some curved lines, um, a few single lines, because we punch our single lines 6 per inch to get it nice and solid, but then we're going to fill at a more 4 per inch, and those two numbers are based on rug yarn.
Yep.
So and you can, anything that you can thread through the needle, you can try punching with. So um, those numbers are applying to rug yarn, but that was, I really enjoyed that pattern. And that was one, if you punched it with a fine needle, you could add a lot more detail and you could add shading. I think there were 3 different values of the purple in there. So there's a little bit of sort of mock shading.
Yeah.
But that was just a fun one. And that one, I decided I put it on the top of a basket
Oh.
because, again, an 8 by 8, what are you going to do with that size? So,
Oh yeah.
um, so I have this wonderful white sort of, wicker basket that I put it on.
Oh, that's really smart. Is the term mock shading an Oxford term?
No, I think that's sort of universal in the rug hooking world, because we have, when we're doing more of a feathered, or when the values interlock,
Okay.
um, as they transition, that is more your feathering, your fine shading is the other term.
Okay.
And then mock shading is when you put one value darker, and the next lighter, then the next lighter. And so then the eye blends it, but
Okay.
you're not feathering, you're not interlocking it. So um, that's I think why it's called mock shading. Is
Okay. I
it's
like
giving
it.
the illusion, but it's not that very fine shading. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That's like impressionism, like pointillism, when the strokes are not mixed, but they're just close to each other, and from a distance, your eye just blends them
Yeah.
automatically. It becomes like an optical effect. Heidi says a lot of movement in the rippling. She loves that pattern, that one with the circles. It's a beautiful way to look at it. Absolutely. And Kaz says, I really like how you did the ripples, Rebecca. Yeah,
Thanks.
it's really beautiful. Um, yep, I'm just catching up on the comments. So I think those are all of the patterns. Oh, wait a minute, hang on. I might be wrong. There might be one more. Wait a minute. Nope, sorry, I'm fooling around. I think there's one more. No, that was the ripples.
Yeah.
So those are the past International Rug Cooking Day patterns that you sent for us to enjoy together, and they are
Just
quite different from each
yeah, and
other.
that's also the neat thing with the ambassador changing every year
Yeah,
is you get a different flavor
yeah.
and interpretation, and it's a neat tradition. I want to say it's been going on at least 15 years, if not longer.
I think it's a great tradition, and I love the spirit behind it. That the day itself is an invitation for people to give it a try,
Yeah,
and it's a push and encouragement, and it's the sort of gesture of giving the pattern out for free, to say this. This is, it's like an amnesty day at the library, right? It's like, here's your chance, here's the pattern. People will be here to support you. People are logging on. It's a fun day, right? It's a fun
yeah,
day that we all look
and
forward to.
lots of instructors um, and anyone who loves punch needle, they might be posting about it. They might be hosting a class. There's just lots of different things to do with it.
Yeah. Yep. Karen says, when you're pulling the loops to sculpt, should the loops be closer than normal?
I tend to, but I did take a sculpting class at the last Oxford Teachers Reunion.
Mm-hmm.
And in that one, I mean, it depends on what you're doing. So when I'm doing a flower
Mm-hmm.
and then I know I'm going to sculpt it, I want to punch it a little tighter than normal because I want that density. But if I was just punching it and leaving those loops and not sculpting it, if I punched it too dense, I'm going to get this very upright flower.
I see.
So if I put looser, then those long loops can fluff out more like a flower. So it just depends on what you're trying to do.
That makes actual sense. Um, yeah, that's a great
Because if you
response.
over punch it, like I'm working on a bird, and if I over punched it, I wouldn't be able to get the shading in detail because I would have fluffed it out too much.
Yes. Yeah, it's almost like too pixelated. There's just
Yeah.
too many ends standing at attention, and very fine. Interesting. Heidi says, can you choose the theme, or do you start from the given theme to make your design for the designs for Punching Day as the
So
ambassador?
um, it's changed a bit over the years. When I was the ambassador, Amy Oxford was in charge, and she picked the theme every year. And so you were told the theme. And actually, my first year, I want to say she offered two. Like, and when I heard the word hope, I'm like, oh, I want to do hope. And then I immediately thought of the crocus. So with my years, there was um, a little flexibility, and then we'd run the idea by her, and it would go from there. But now the board for uh, I believe the board is the one who chooses the theme. Uh, is how that works.
Okay. That's good information, Debbie. Hi, Debbie. Debbie says, I am a new rug hooker, and she the something crocus was how the crocus from International Punch Needle and Rug Cooking Day was how I got started in punch needle.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we
that
did
was your
a
entree.
Rug Cooking Magazine did a webinar that year, and so we talked about it on there, and so that was neat. I want to say we had over 800 people from all around the world on that webinar. That was really special.
That's a lot.
And especially, during COVID times, it was really neat to have all those people on the call, and just knowing that we were achieving the goal of getting it out there and inspiring people to try something new and to be creative.
I mean, there's such a great sense of belonging when you log on and there's a bunch of other people who are there. You feel like part of something bigger. You're
And then
sitting in your living room, but it feels good.
and then as the ambassador, I particularly remember the crocus year, as because you're encouraged to use the hashtag and to post what you've made. And as the day went on, and I would check social media and see my design, and then in all these different colors, all these different styles, it was so neat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I bet. That would be a good title for your memoir, The Crocuseer. That's really romantic. Sharon says, I have some silk noli yarn, no, noil yarn. Noil. Do you mean nori or noil? I don't know noil. Silk noil. It's probably right. I probably just don't know. Yarn that is too thin for the Oxford fine. It seems to get ahead of itself when I punch it, if that makes sense.
Yes. So I've dealt with that, because my thing is, if the yarn, there's some yarn that's just so beautiful, you need to figure out a way to use it.
Yeah.
And I had this gorgeous yarn that I got at a fiber festival, and it transitioned color so well, and it was almost a sock weight. It was very thin.
Mm.
So I doubled it up. So that's the one thing. If you thread your needle and the yarn wants to kind of flop out of the channel, then it's too small. So then you need to double. So cut lengths of it and put more than one length in. But then there are some yarns that the way they're spun, they have so much air in them. They're so light that they don't have enough gravity almost to work in the punch needle.
Yeah.
So what I did when I was faced with that, because I was determined to use this gorgeous yarn I had, when we're punching, we just punch down. The punch is doing it for us. The yarn is running free. But with that particular yarn, I had to sort of stroke it as it came out of the back of the needle to create tension,
Yeah.
to cause it to help it punch. And the other thing you can do is um, combine it with what we call a carrier yarn, another yarn that has a little more tack to it.
Hmm.
And so, I mean, it'll be a different look, but it will punch better because it's kind of sticking to the other yarn.
Yeah. And then you again in that scenario would have to cut lengths. You don't go straight
Yes.
from the ball.
And so, I would say, if it gets in the needle, try punching with it. How well you enjoy punching with it
Yeah.
will vary by the type of yarn,
Right.
because our whole thing is we're creating upright loops. So our luscious, wonderful yarns that we knit with, they don't, they're not designed to be standing upright loops that would be stood on, or, like a footstool. They're floppy.
Yeah.
Um, so they're a little more tricky to punch with. You're more likely to snag and punch into a neighboring loop. But when I'm using non-rug yarn, I just go slower. I might space it out a little bit. I'm very aware of how I'm punching down, so I don't grab a neighboring loop. With rug yarn, if I grab a neighboring loop, I can just push it back out from the other side. And then I do think of the final use of it. I've used silk because I was spinning with a silk merino blend, and I did hook with it. I mean, I punched with it, and I was sculpting rocks for a playmat.
Oh, yeah.
And but silk is very soft, so I sculpted it. But then I took a needle felting needle and roughed it up and kind of got it to mat together a bit.
Hmm. Those are really good. Those are really good tips because that is with punch needle the fact that the your fiber has to go through the shaft of the needle, right? And you don't
Right.
want it to snag. You don't want it, as Sharon says, to get ahead of itself like a weird
Yeah.
log jam, like a soft log jam. Like there is another layer of technical complication that you need to think through. And as with anything else, right? Anything else, like if it's not working, there's a technical problem, right? The fiber is not right for the needle, or maybe even your backing is not right for the fiber. I mean, there's so many combinations of things that could be playing you. The one thing that is for sure is that it is not you. When people get frustrated and it's like, oh, I'm not cut out for this. I'm not this, I'm not good at this. It's never that, and that makes no sense in and of itself. It's always that there's something technically going wrong with the tool that you're holding and the materials that you're using or the backing that you're using. And it just becomes a question. This is where teachers can come in really handy, is teachers can often just look and say, I can absolutely see what's going on from across the room, and it's not going to get any better. So let's fix it.
Well, and
But
that's where knowing more than one technique. Um, so with hooking, anything we can pull through that foundation fabric, we can hook with.
yeah,
So there'll be times where I'll want to use something and it's just not working well on the punch needle. So I'll flip my work over and I'm gonna hook it.
hmm,
And that's the way to use the fiber.
yeah, that's a good call. We're funny we're having this conversation. I'm going to cut so I can show you what I'm working on. But I am punching with sock yarn right now, and sometimes it's a nightmare. Weirdly, it's working okay. It has a little bit of texture. I don't know what brand this is, but I got it years ago, and I'm punching, and I'm using one of the needles from Brazil, and I've got two washers on it from the hardware store. So I've got these two washers are making the shaft a little bit shorter. So I'm working on a Halloween picture. I don't know if you can see it, but this is going to be something that I put into the Mystic Carpet book for this fall. Got a weird angle happening. Sorry, there we go. No, here we go. I'm sorry, but I'm punching just the background under the trees. It's kind of like a Klimt-esque piece,
Yeah.
and the trees have faces, and there's lots of pumpkins hanging from them. I've got it on my circle frame, but it's not a circular piece. And I fully expected the sock yarn to play me enormously, and I expected to kind of cry myself to sleep. But incredibly, and as Rebecca says, you don't know until you're into it whether it's going to be okay or not. And our thresholds for pain are different. In fact, right before we went live, Rebecca said, "How was your root canal?" And I said it was totally fine. I honestly did not feel a thing. And somebody said to me yesterday, it really depends on the person because it might be hard on another person. Same thing with punch needle and rug hooking. If you're doing it and you're finding it frustrating, if you're hooking and you're hooking some kind of you cut up a pair of plaid pants or something and you love the colors, but it's really difficult and thready and it's atomizing as you hook and it drives you nuts and you think, forget it. This is, I see Rebecca went away. I bet she's going to come right back. You see, this is just not happening. Um, that might be your response, but the next person might say, well, it's a bear to hook, but I really like it, so I'm going to keep going. So we all react differently. Hold on one second. I'm just going to come back and see if I can grab her back physically. I'm going to grab her. Let's see. Hold on one second. Yep, there she is.
That disappeared
Gotcha.
for a
Yeah,
second.
I gotcha.
Yeah. And then with that yarn you're using,
Yep.
especially because you're using it as a background,
Yeah.
if it did get finicky on you, it's variegated.
Yeah.
It's the background, you're doing big areas,
Yeah.
so it will work really well.
Yeah.
Uh, I actually thought you must be working on the violets. That would be great yarn for the violets.
I want to work on the violets. I just won't get the rose book done and the Halloween book done if I do extra
No, I
projects.
know.
Like it's just there's not one more minute built in, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So yeah, I figured I had to punch something that must get done soon, or I'm gonna start sweating blood or something. But yeah, different techniques. So what you were just saying about if a piece is too difficult, you might flip it over and just start hooking it.
Yeah.
And we talk about this a lot on the show because you can't hook and punch the same piece. What I'm going to do with this piece that I just showed you, right? There's like a little witch in the middle who's trick or treating. I'm punching the background like an arch in this multicolor. And when I get to like the witch's face and the pumpkins and the faces on the trees, I'm going to want to hook. So I need to flip it over, but the information, aka the line drawing, will not appear on the back of the piece, right? Because I'm punching it, so all my lines are up front. So this is a tool that I use a lot. I know a lot of people, to trace through your backing fabric, will put the piece onto a light box, trace it with a Sharpie so the image is on both sides,
Yes.
right? Or put it up to the window. I put it on this thing. It's like one of these light board things. Get ready, it's bright. And you can hook it up to your computer and you just, right, it gets like, it has 3 brightnesses. And I just put it under the piece and I can see right through it and trace. It's the size of a 8.5 by 11 like piece of paper. So super easy. And it solves the problem of it's not working out with the punch, but I got or vice versa, the hooking. I got really far into it. Now I need the image on the other side. That's a good shortcut because those are super inexpensive too, to just quickly flipping it over and getting that tracing on the other side too, so you can switch techniques. for the moments when you really work yourself into a corner, you know. Judy says those little light boards are very handy. See, I'm always behind, late to the party, but I just discovered that, and I'm so happy to have it because I use that constantly with drawing and with fabric. It is a great tool. Hey, Rebecca.
So do we want to look at the sheep?
Yeah, yeah. All right. So let's move on because I'm doing a time check. It's 11:35, so I'm going to do a time check. Oh, you can even find those in Belgium, Heidi. That's great. You have all the good stuff over there. I'm not surprised. So I'm going to come back over here now, Rebecca. I just showed what I was working on. You're going to show us what you've been working on, right?
Yes. Do you
Okay.
want to show them photos and we'll talk about it? And then I can
Let's
move
look at the
around.
we'll look at the photos first, and I'll describe them to you. I can show you on the phone too. I'll describe them to you. So, do you want to just describe the project in general before I do?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just turned 50, which is just a wonderful milestone. And I go by the adage of aging is a privilege denied to many. So I was very excited and honored to turn 50. But unfortunately, my husband and son were really, really sick. And so everything got canceled. And then I got a mild version of what they had. So I spent my 50th birthday lying in bed, feeling sorry for myself. And I don't know how the idea started. I think my daughter's an early childhood education major, and she's always looking at different play toys with a lot of scope for imagination. And I started seeing these little mice, and people were building kitchens for them. And I thought, I want a sheep, and I want to build a world for a sheep. And I had plenty of time on my hands, and I found this wonderful fair trade needle quilted sheep, and just fell in love and ordered her instantly. And I was like, I'm going to make a world. She's going to have her own rug studio. I'm going to make just everything for her. And I've always loved miniatures. I've always loved dolls. My daughter was so into the American Girl dolls, and we created the most elaborate scale. I made an entire plattered Thanksgiving turkey out of clay and scaled to the dolls. So that's just something I've always been interested in. And I thought, well, yeah, like when I was visiting Diana last, like dragging you into, I'm like, oh, there's dollhouse stuff. Let's go in that shop. And I don't know why I love miniature things, but I do. So it just was one of those moments. And then I was even texting some friends and saying, is this the fever talking? Am I going to wake up in a couple days and go, what was I thinking? But I have thought of nothing else and done pretty much nothing else than work on my sheep's world.
It's a good transition, and the backstory of you being I'm sorry about being sick in bed on your birthday. There is something to be said for being in bed and feeling sorry for yourself on your birthday. I mean, that is kind of a tradition among many women. Um, and no, I realize we're having a slight sound problem. And again, there's not much we can do about it. We're lit up with our high speed networks. We're having different weather in two different parts of the country, so we're doing our best. There's nothing that we can adjust on our ends to make it any different. The live stream exists as high quality as the stream can be at that moment. Just like when the TV goes out or you can't get a station, it's the same kind of technology. But hopefully you can hear us well enough because we're about to transition. I'm going to show some pictures of the sheep that you just described that you have been working on. Does the main character at this moment have a name yet?
Yes.
Or no? Okay.
Her name is Lucy.
Okay, Lucy. Okay, so I'll show you what I'm showing on my end. I gave you a sneak preview of this world last night on Cocktail Time. So, Rebecca, let me show you the image that I'm showing them first, and you can kind of walk us through. Hold on, I'm looking for that specific. Oh, there it is. So I'm showing them this one first.
Okay.
Can you see? Yeah. It's not the box yet. It's just the vignette. And you're getting some oh my gods and hearts. So this is, in your words, like this is the like living room, the set.
Yes. So it's a suitcase, one of those paperboard suitcases. My sister gave my daughter a set years ago, and so I got one and thought, oh well, the back of it would be perfect to create the backdrop of the room. And so I used the fine punch needles because like the mantle is it's in relief. So the mantle I used the number 8, so it was sticking out the farthest into the hearth. And then the inside of the mantle, excuse me, I go all the way down to the 14 to create the sense of depth behind the basket of flowers. And the curtains were done with a number 10. And then the window and the scene outside the window with the 14 again to give a sense of depth.
So you're basically designing it as if it was a set design, and you
Yes,
have got the literally the floor. It's like fourth wall is missing, right? Just like in a theater stage, and you have to consider the back wall, the floor. Are you doing the side walls?
I'm going to. I have ordered little tiny embroidery hoops
Yeah.
because they're going to be doing some crafting and sheep. But also, I thought I could put them on the sidewalls as artwork.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I haven't done the sidewalls yet, and then it's attached with Velcro. So this is the spring scene.
Oh.
There are Easter eggs on the mantle and a vase with some tulips, and then your flowers in the fireplace. And I've designed 4 so far. This is the only one I've punched, but I'm going to have a summer, fall, and a winter. Food changes outside the window. What's in the fireplace changes. So I like seeing things too. Like there'll be pumpkins next to the fireplace for fall, and
Oh.
leaves falling from the tree that's outside the window. And
And
then
is
for winter, I'm planning on not just having a fire in the fireplace, but probably doing some needle felting. So it'll be more of a 3D on the actual fire.
oh man. And that's a little sheep on the couch.
So I needle felted that and that's actually a bed.
Okay. I'm sorry.
And
Of
I
course
think
it's a bed. Yes.
there's the photo that shows what
Yes.
for
That
that.
one's coming up.
Okay. So, and then each season is going to have its own area rug.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
And Heidi noted she loves your quilly pillow on that chair.
Yes.
Yeah,
There's got to be
very
a
sweet.
photo. And that chair, that's when I thought I might be losing my mind. So I took a wool ironing mat. They're like an inch
Yes,
thick
yeah,
wool ironing mat.
yeah.
And I cut it and I was like trying to needle felt it together because they're all wool. And I made a sofa and then I'm texting my sister and I said, I just spent 3 hours trying to make a sofa for my sheep and it's the wrong scale. And she's like, yeah, but this is a sheep person. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
this is realism important here. Um,
And those things are expensive.
yeah.
Sorry, not to
And,
remind you, but
and then I wound little tiny wool balls, little cakes of wool around beads. That took a while, but
yeah, I mean, in theory, you could just get the wool felt, like 100% wool felt, that's like super thick. I know
yeah.
Joann's is closing, but they used to have it in so many different colors. It was like wonderful, easy to sew. Sharon's asking, did you hook the carpet, the actual little carpet, with a fine punch?
Yes, so everything
Everything,
in
yeah.
this scene is done with the fine needles.
Okay.
And the
Now,
base
yeah.
is a piece of scrapbooking paper, the wooden floor.
Oh, I
So
was going to ask you that because it looks super realistic.
yeah,
Okay, yeah, that looks great. Heidi says, "Oh, that is what I like also on punching the different heights that make
yeah.
it look so real." She says, "But you are unbelievable." I'm going to switch to the next slide, and I'm showing the one where Lucy is standing in front of the hearth.
Okay. Yeah, so that's just a close up. Oh, and then the picture above the hearth will change with each season. Um, yeah, so
Oh,
there'll be a wreath hanging over it for Christmas.
oh,
And then that's sort of a nature scene, and I have a more simplified scene for fall.
and you've got flowers in the flower place right now because they're not using it for a
Right.
fire, right? Because it's warm.
Yeah, because
So,
in the house I grew up in, we had and I now have it in my home. It's a metal fireplace screen
yeah.
that has hydrangeas on it. So
Oh,
that I was thinking about that, and I just pulled mine out for the seasonal change. So
oh, Lucy's got one too. That little sweetheart. Oh, wait a minute. What was I going to say? Not to get you crazy, but do you see yourself going super micro with mini punch at any point?
I was wondering about that for some details,
Mm.
but I have uh, one of the blue needles for the Ultra Punch, but I don't know. I think the 14, the Oxford 14 is sort of as small as my hand wants to go.
Yes. Yep. That makes sense. And I saw another question because I think we're gonna get to the bed in just a second because that is a bit of a cutie patootie too. This is the one we're looking at now, Rebecca. They're working on their rugs
Okay, so
at the
yeah,
table.
so this scene I created for today. So Lucy has had a friend over, Alice, and she is teaching her punch needle. So I printed out the pattern really tiny, and then I printed out photos of my rug and uh, why am I blanking on her name? The ambassador this year.
The say that again. The what this year?
The
Robin?
Robin's.
Yep.
So that's Robin's rug,
Yep.
Robin's piece, and
Oh, of
my
course it
piece.
is. Yep.
Yeah. So
Oh.
and then making the tiny punch needle. That's my first try with that clay that you bake, and I have a pin
Oh
inside
yeah.
it. But I want to try again with maybe a small nail or yeah. I mean, the ultimate thing would be to find a way to actually thread a little bit of yarn in there, but I'm not sure I can do that.
Well, I mean, it depends on how unwell you become.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just
So
kidding.
yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Well, when my daughter was young, I made a punch needle for her for the American Girl doll scale because that was much larger. And what I did is I took an antique punch, one of those
Yeah.
thin metal ones,
Yeah.
and then did the clay around it to create a punch. But this scale is teeny tiny. So
Yeah, it is teeny tiny. You're getting a lot of cuteness and talent overload comments. Heidi says, as I said, unbelievable. I hope Robin will see this too. It is so nice. And Karen's asking, let me see. Wait a minute, not quite yet. Wait a minute. Oh, almost. I'm just showing the close up of. So Lucy is with her friend who is named. Does the friend have a name yet?
Alice.
Alice.
So the sheep in the green dress is Alice, and
Yes.
the blue dress is Lucy.
So we're looking at the close up of Alice. She looks so cute. She's
Yeah.
got she's got she's got Robin's design in front of her, and I guess she's considering maybe her color planning.
Yeah, she's picking out her colors. So it took a while to figure out how to make the little tiny cakes of yarn. So I used crewel tapestry yarn, and then I wound it around a wooden bead.
Okay. Oh, that's so cute. And Heidi's saying, good idea, a photo. Yeah, because that would be ridiculous. Like
Yeah,
as a micro. Yeah,
yeah.
that would be insane, impossible. Sharon says, I said this to you before too. This is a lot of work. I'm imagining this animated,
Oh, yeah.
all
Well,
like
and my
Wallace and
kids
Gromit.
went through that stop action phase where they would do stuff with their toys,
Yeah.
and yeah, I was
And
thinking about that.
that would be so, yeah, I mean, stop action would work great. I'm sure there's like programs on your phone that can do that. Max could probably find one I
Yeah.
mean, it would be so cute. Judy says they need to have itty bitty punch frames, like the window
Yes.
pane frames.
So I ordered these tiny. I think people use them as jewelry. It's a tiny hoop.
Uh huh.
So I thought, yeah. So I'm making them little hoop frames, but yes, if I get
Oh,
a
I know
little
what you mean. Yeah, I've used those to make necklaces and stuff. They come in ovals and
yes,
circles.
and I think they're arriving today, and then I'm planning. Um, I ordered spools, empty spools. I got some at the craft store, but they weren't tapered enough for my taste.
Yeah.
And I'm making her a table where the base will be a spool with yarn wrapped around it, and then a little round wooden piece for her table.
Wow. I know you're making like all the aspects of this, but I can't help thinking about when we were in Newport and we happened to walk by that like dollhouse store that was kind of, I don't know if they were closing or, but you remember they had like boxes on the floor.
Yeah,
I bought a bunch of, I don't even do dollhouse stuff. I bought a bunch of stuff that I'm thinking of like small, like you're making the furniture and the textiles and all that, but the small stuff maybe could
right.
cross over to dollhouse
Well,
stuff.
and like the wooden table in the punch needle scene is a dollhouse table. But ultimately, I'd like to make as much of the furniture as
Yeah.
I can. So should we
Yeah.
go with the bed?
Yeah, let's show the bed. But I mean, you don't want to make the wooden furniture, do you?
No.
I'm showing the
Yes.
bed, and it's
Okay.
it's
So
revealed the
so
box.
the bed is the punch needle box.
Hmm.
So I just created a little slip cover with the felt, and then now she's under the bed storage for all her craft supplies.
That I mean, how darling is that? She's like making the corner of the bed.
Yeah, well,
I
and as I was working with all the different needles, and all the needles come boxed now, I was
yeah,
like, a lot of people have all these extra punch
boxes.
needle
Yeah.
boxes. So even though aesthetically, I probably could have come up with a bed that was a little, I don't know, a little more interesting. I loved the idea of using the punch needle box since her whole world is made with a punch needle.
Yeah, I think that's really special. I can't think of anything better.
Yeah.
Cass says, what a smart way to use the punch needle box.
Yeah. So save your boxes.
Save your boxes. I love this photo. I think I'm going to show it to everybody who lives in this house because I think I'm the only person in this house who understands about making a bed and actually like making the corner on a bed. I don't think they're aware that that exists as an aesthetic. So I'm going to share this photo with the rest of the family a little bit later. Let's see. And now we're looking at the photo, looking into the actual box, like because
Okay.
Karen asked earlier, like how big is the box?
Um, 30 centimeters, which, what is that in inches? Because when I ordered it, it was all in centimeters. I actually got
Let's
them from
see.
the Netherlands, of all places, is where those, which now I'm wondering, you know, are they probably going to cost me more to get from now on? But
About almost 12 inches.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems great. And then, so is the photo that's up, does it show the yard?
Nope, not yet.
Okay.
Let me move to that one. So we're just panning back in this photo, and you're seeing the open. So when I asked earlier, are you doing walls? It doesn't really have walls. You're
It just
just
has
looking in at
one,
the vignette,
the back wall.
just the
So
back wall.
it's a suitcase that's opened up, and the opened flap
Yeah.
becomes the floor.
This is great on like a bookshelf or something, isn't
Yeah.
it? I mean, I
Well,
would
and
love to put my cozy mysteries next to this thing.
because my first thought when I was lying in bed, I'm looking, I thought IKEA has a really well priced wooden dollhouse, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna get that. But then I was like, there's no space in my studio for a dollhouse, and I have my daughter's dollhouse out in our shed. But I thought, well, maybe if it was a little more portable, small, I could switch out the scenes. I don't need an enormous house. I can just create a room and change the rooms out.
Yeah. I think this is brilliant. I like this way better than a house. Cass says, I wonder if you can use these photos to make a storybook. We were
Yeah.
talking about that too. I think that's, yeah. I mean, I hope that you are thinking about that because this is a great project for that. And my mom says this is also whimsical, amazing, and adorable. It is all of those things. I'm now looking at the photo with the side of the house going out into the yard, and Alice is out there too.
Yes.
Alice is
So
approaching.
I just finished that yesterday. And so I might make some tweaks, and that combines I am using the number 10 regular in a few spots, and then in the tree too, I use the regular needle. So I'm mixing thicker yarns and thinner yarns,
Yeah.
and the grass is the combination of the 13 and the 14 to just give a little definition. The pathway, the stones are with the 13, so they're a little bit taller, where the base of the pathway is with the 14. And then I sculpted up sort of the edging going all the way up to the 10.
Okay.
And then the foliage in the back, that's basically a quilly. So what I do is I take a rectangular piece of wool or felt and snip all along the top of it, and then twirl it like a quilly
Yeah.
and sew it, and then I get little plant shapes.
Wow. And they make them sprout like that, like a hosta or something like
Yeah.
that. That's really
and then,
great.
and then I just sewed it down. So I drew little circles, and so I left a circular space, and then created the quilly to fit in it.
I like how you did that sort of flower beds too. Like a
Yeah,
little
and
bit more
those,
colorful.
it's interesting just changing the needle height just a little bit, where the flowers are done in the 13, and or maybe it'd be done in the 10. But to give it just subtle curvature of the dirt, I
Yeah.
mixed two different needle heights.
Okay. Oh, interesting. A little bit of relief, like a little
Yeah.
topography. And was I spacing out when you said how you made the tree?
The tree that I ended up doing two trees yesterday because my very literal engineer husband felt the first one was too Christmassy for a spring scene,
Okay.
because I had one of the greens kind of looping like a swagging across the tree.
I see.
So it's just it's a fan shape basically.
A fan shape.
So like a triangle
Oh,
with a
okay, the pattern
top,
piece. Yep.
but an arced triangle.
Okay.
And then I punched it and then took it together. Here, actually, if you want to put the camera back
Yep.
on me, I didn't sew it down. Um, so it's just, it was this curved shape. And then I made a mistake and I tried to fix it. So along here, I outlined the whole shape in one color. So, but when I then went to sew it together, it created a more pronounced line of that color. So
I
then I
see.
went through and tried to mix it up to bring some other things in. So
Oh,
that's,
interesting.
and
So
then I took scraps of monk's cloth and stuffed it in there to make
perfect.
it stand up.
Instead of in the garbage, the really small scraps,
Yeah.
right?
So,
Oh, that
and
is
then
really perfect.
there's some sculpted rocks behind the tree. I don't know if they show up in the photo.
Let me see. Sculpted rocks behind the tree. Let me see. I didn't see. No, there. The tree is kind of on the far left of the photo.
Yeah, so
So,
behind the tree. And when I move my camera, I can show those.
okay, nice. Oh yeah, let's do that. Yep, I'm gonna move. Let me make you the whole screens because you're gonna show us the actual piece, the pieces plural. Hold on one second. Let me
And
come
then
over
will I
to
be able
you.
to see?
Hopefully,
Okay.
I've got you on the whole screen now.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to move the camera
Yep.
so I don't make any
Take your
noises.
time. We know we're going for a ride. That's all.
Okay. So here I have them next to me. They're still working on their International Punch Needle Day projects. Down
Oh,
here, I have more yarn. And then
oh,
that little sheep I made. And then, oh, and here's that free, it's mug rug size, but
oh yeah.
that's the quilt pattern.
Oh yeah. The violets.
And then this little standing lamp.
Yep.
So one of my sheep came with that little snowdrop in her
Oh.
hands, and I snipped it off and then put it in a little spool and made it's supposed to be like a standing lamp.
Oh. Ho, ho, ho.
Maybe like zoom in a little bit more on those are supposed to be Easter eggs.
On the mantle.
Yeah.
Yep. They
And
look like
then,
eggs.
okay, so for the yard, and I'm going to change the yard out seasonally. So this is spring. So the grasses on either side of the path have just started to come up and the flowers are just coming up. So for summer, the flowers will be more pronounced. And then here are those.
Oh, I see. Yep. Yep. We couldn't see those.
I used the two yarns that I used in the pathway and punched and held. Well, the smaller ones were number, and then the larger rock. I punched and held it,
Okay.
and then I sculpted it. So yeah, the whole little world is just this suitcase, and then I made the little yard, and so I can swap them and get a craft room.
Do you think that they'll ever go to like the sea?
They might.
Yeah.
Oh, and then there's a little table back there that I was playing with a spool,
I see.
but
Yep.
it didn't look spool enough to me. So I ordered new spools that flare out a little more. And
I
then there's
see.
that
Yeah,
tiny
because this the
little,
scale is so cute. The spool really speaks to the scale of it.
so
Absolutely adorable. People are loving in the thread the idea of illustrating a storybook. Diane likes that story. Ruth loves that idea. Rita says you can cover boxes with polymer clay. Won't paper won't burn at the temperature the polymer clay needs to be cured at. Oh,
oh,
interesting. And Rita says I've made hooked pieces with polymer clay. Another way to go. Interesting. Gosh, Rita, that sounds intriguing.
and there's a little dog.
Oh my God! And now little sheepy is down on the floor. The little
Yeah.
the tiny little guy. It
So
is
all right, I'm gonna move my camera back.
absolutely
So
precious.
you can have a little tour of the messy studio as we go around.
Oh, very tidy. It's very tidy. Oh, that is such a beautiful project.
So I'm
And
having a lot of fun with it.
yeah, and it's like so many of us we are like kind of rugged out. Like we've it's enough. It's just enough. This is a great departure. Still using the same tools and the same materials, being able to use leftovers. Kirsten
Yeah.
loves it. She loves the garden. I mean,
Well,
they
I
could
think,
go to like Versailles, or they could go to like chateaus on the Loire, and it actually like build the actual garden.
yeah,
Taking it too far, I know, overdue.
no, so many different things.
Yeah, it's got legs for sure. It's such a great project with legs. Now we are at 12 o'clock. We did not get time to talk about Tigger, but we can certainly do that in the near future. It is worth saying that we have opened up membership for Tigger, right?
Mhm.
And it's if you're online in my Facebook group, Raw Cooking and Punch Needle Club, I've put the link up there. Rebecca, are you posting on your social media about the Tigger membership opening up?
I have not posted that yet, but
Yep,
the
it
post
just
about
happened.
this event,
Yep,
yeah.
it just happened.
So,
So it's like one thing at a time. But we are open. We are opened up. Everything that has been Tigger related up to now has been free because while it might look like we are taking our sweet time, we are certainly not. It has been a drudge, like in the of the most severe variety. We have set up Tigger in the United States as an entity legally because we're moving a lot of money around. So that, as you can imagine, anything with red tape takes a lot of time. We are making final decisions this week about Newport and absolutely where we want to be with the most options, the most flexibility, the most cost control, all of those sort of important things about the event itself. But in the meantime, the five of us who are board members of Tigger, being rug hooking punch needle business owners, we are very business centric, and we bring each one of us brings a different style, different conversations, different ideas, but a lot of business sense in this specific industry. So we have been very busy with thinking about how classes will be structured, what we can offer remotely for people who are not able to travel, don't want to travel. We are taking into account everything that is going on in the world and that could happen between now and then. All of those things, it's a lot of moving parts, have been hard to calibrate, but we really have got it together and streamlined. We are now legal and able to take membership. So over the
yeah,
course of the next 3 years, between now and November of 2027, there will be tons of content that is unique to Tigger. We will be teaching classes. I will do a class within the next month on design for spring. We'll be doing classes that are only available as free content for Tigger members. We'll be running interviews. I am going to go out and see Liz Marino, who's bringing her endangered species project to Sauter that year, but then on a full scale to Tigger with classes, right? At least 3 days of classes, different and independent classes with a whole sort of plethora of McGowan teachers helping her. I will go and visit her and do interviews with her. That'll be Tigger content only. There's going to be a lot of Tigger content only. Up to now, I've been talking about Tigger. We've all been talking about Tigger, and it's been free because we had to wait for the state stuff, the legal stuff, the government stuff to come through with tax numbers, and we could not take your money until there was somewhere legal to put it. Now we have that, and we are rolling out Tigger as the International Guild of Hand Toking Rug Makers. And we are over 30 years old, and we are the only international Guild of Rug Hookers. So, what did we put membership at in the end, Rebecca? Do you remember?
it's 99
Yeah, it's
US.
99, so it's like $10 more than it used to be. But I also have to tell you that Haley Perry has put up Mighty Networks, which is a new platform for Tigger, and
And
it's cost a lot of money.
well, and the membership is for 3 years.
Right,
It's
it's
for
for three
the whole
years.
time.
Right.
And it's, we were leading up to this amazing convention that we're going to have in 2027. But the fact that we're an international group is something we take very seriously and personally, that we want to create content over the next 3 years that can be accessed by the whole world.
Yes.
And then we really want to do something new with the conference and have classes happening all over the world
Yes.
during the conference, because not everybody's going to be able to come to Newport, Rhode Island in November of 2027, but we don't want anyone to miss out. So we're going to make sure that there's stuff going on in multiple time zones and countries, and they will highlight the teachers in those countries
Yes.
for their students, so that it's a benefit for those teachers as well. And so it's really exciting. It's been hard to get it off the ground, but
hard.
we took it very seriously and wanted to make sure everything was very legal and done right, and
Yeah.
that took some time, as state documents and federal things do. So
Yeah, these people will not be rushed. Sitting in their offices. Yeah,
Yeah.
we've dotted the T's and I's and all of that, crossed the T,
Yeah.
all of that stuff. And it's not just about, um, we are bringing in Heidi's asking from Belgium. We are doing online classes, and we
Mhm.
are for Tigger members. We're doing online classes and online content in the years leading up to the conference, but also at the conference.
At the conference.
Rebecca's describing at the conference there will be teachers in different countries. There will be a full blast conference in Newport, right? And if you can be there, I hope that you will be there with us. It'll be a party to end all parties. But if you cannot be there, there will be content in respective countries in their time zones that is Tigger unique from Tigger
Yeah, that
teachers.
only people with that are Tigger members can attend those online offerings
Yeah,
that'll be happening during the conference.
yeah.
So
And we will
it's
have added technology in Newport as far as overhead stuff, and we're going to be very thoughtful about classes that include small working parts and small things with hands. We're looking to use as much technology as we can so that people who are even in here, in Newport with us in person, are seeing everything, right? We really plan to utilize technology in a huge way so that everyone has a complete experience with learning and nobody is left out, no matter where in the world they are or they live or they, at that moment are. You could be in your living room having a great, thorough, complete experience. You could be in the classroom having a great experience, not thinking, oh man, if only I didn't go to the bathroom before class, I would have been in one of the seats up front and see better. We're leveling all of this stuff out so that everybody has the best experience that they can have and get the most out of the conference. And of course, we're planning at the conference to do conference things, to have a full blast emporium event that will be vendors, demonstrators, and that will be a day that I think will attract not just a lot of day trippers who want to come to shop, to look at people demonstrating rug crafts and other fiber crafts, hear some talks, look at the exhibits, which will be phenomenal and will be in town. I think it's also going to attract other people around New England who are not necessarily Tigger people
yeah,
but can pay a fee, come that day, look at the exhibits, and maybe go shopping.
yeah,
So there's lots of moving parts on different levels. I appreciate the comments we're seeing saying this is a very reasonable price for what this is. We feel it is incredibly reasonable. And with the new site, Mighty Networks, unlike what's been used before, we get better and better as an organization as we figure things out, right? We're very lucky on our board to have Haley Perry because she's younger and she's very computer oriented. And she figured out that this platform, Mighty Networks, is fantastic for giving classes, for hosting live streams, for shopping, for connecting with other people in different chat threads. You can find each other there. You can connect with friends there. It hosts any sort of manner of thing. So it costs us a lot of money to run that, right? But this is part of having a great experience so that even if you do a Rumpelstiltskin and you fall asleep for the next 2.5 years, you can wake up in October of 2027, join Tigger, and you will still have access to the previous 3 years worth of content, all of it,
yeah.
right? So,
And our hope is that what all this foundation that we're putting in place will be taken forward because every 3 years there's a new board, and the previous software we were using was the same software they were using 20 years ago. So it was time.
yeah,
And so we're really trying to be thoughtful about laying a foundation for future boards. So again, that this content we're creating now will still exist into the future for Tigger members, um, with the next
yeah. I
draft.
mean, it's about legacy, right? This is
Yeah,
our legacy. This organization's been hanging on for over 30 years. It has not been in the U.S. It was in Canada last time. Of course, we were there at Niagara Falls, the Canadian side, but it has not been in the U.S. for many, many years. So,
yeah,
I put politics aside, all of that aside, we are very excited to host in the U.S. But we are conscious of everything that's going on in the world, and we are also luckily at a point in history where we can use technology and
yeah,
be inclusive and make sure everybody can be involved and have a great experience, exactly the experience that they want. But the legacy of the organization does have to continue. And one of the other things that we've put into place is an auxiliary committee, right? Like auxiliary, like emergency times. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. The auxiliary committee is in place, and what that means, and you'll hear more about this, is that there is a person who has been chosen from all of the participating Tigger countries who is just the go-to person, right? It's not a role that requires a lot of a time or energy or thought, but what it means is that for us on the Tigger board, we could say, hey, Japan, Mrs. Hashisuka, what is going on over there? Are you all having any exhibits anytime soon? Has your group of hookers taken any day trips? What's going on in hooking and punching in Japan? And she can feed us content so that we have a good sort of pulse on what's happening with our Tigger counterparts in every participating Tigger country, not just the US and Canada. And I think this is an important part because it doesn't necessarily mean that those auxiliary committee members are going to be the next board. It doesn't mean they're not, but it just means that for this moment, we have our sort of hands out, reaching out to all of the various countries and saying, make sure you keep us updated on the interesting things that you've got going on so that we can share them and be inspired within the Tigger community. We want to know what's going on in Australia and in Scotland and in Ireland, right? And in Japan.
We're an international group. We just happen to be, Tigger happens to be run by an American board for these 3 years, but Tigger is an international organization. Yeah. So our focus is on the whole world, which is very apropos to talk about today on International Punch Needle Day. It's about bringing everyone together, and that's what we're going to be striving to do during our tenure.
Yeah. I think that's a great point because for us on this board, and I'm not comparing us to any previous boards, but it's really not about the party. It's about the organization, the legacy of the organization, making it more visible, using our power as people in business, as rug hooking brands, using our visibility and our platforms to make the organization more visible so that we really do ensure that after we finish our tenure, we do have a fun party, but we want to ensure that there's a lot of content and education and outreach happening during the 3 years, and that when we have finished our tenure, we hand it off as an improved organization with more visibility, more members, and a blueprint in place so that people are able to say, I understand perfectly what I need to do next. Let's get going, right? And we hand over the baton like it's the Olympics, hopefully. Hopefully. Well, Rebecca, we're getting a lot of nice comments on Tigger, and we are piecing things together rather quickly. It was just last week that we were able to finalize the bank account with all of the paperwork we finally gathered and were sent. All of that was in limbo until we received things in the mail, and there's no rushing that. And we were finally able at the end of the week, maybe even over the weekend, to open up membership for the first time. And this coming week, we are focusing on nailing down. We have choices of hotels, as you can imagine. We're going to pick the one that is the best. And then we'll be coming to you with more information. Rebecca, you'll be here over the summer. We'll definitely make a trip to Newport, be recording some videos to get. When are you coming? Is it July? June?
Yeah.
July.
July.
So we'll all be together then. Hopefully Colleen will come up from Beech Nut Studio. She'll come up from Maryland. Haley is already well positioned in Warren, Rhode Island. Naomi will be with us. She's in Naugatuck, Connecticut also. Of course, I'll be here. You'll be here. All of the buddies will be able to roll hopefully into town and do some great little movies and previews for you of what to expect. So I think we're all looking forward to that. So more information on Tigger as it comes in. We are working like dogs behind the scenes. I promise you, it has been a lot more than I signed up for. How about you, Rebecca? It's a lot. All right, so we've got people signing up now. Thank you so much. You won't be disappointed. We're going to have a heck of a lot of stuff coming at you. And as I say, it's all recorded. It's all there for you no matter when you sign up. I'll be joining, and if needed, Richard will join too, so we can attend in person. That'll be fantastic. Of course, you can bring guests for designated days. It's just a question of for the conference, with classroom spaces. We'll get to all of that soon. We'll get to prices on all of that, like how much the event will cost. It's going to be a little while before we're there yet. We're cobbling the whole thing together and putting the foundation down first. So this will not be the house that Jack built. It was great spending time with you, which is not to say it ever was, right? It's just time is marching on, and there's a lot more people in the field now who will want to attend in some manner. Rebecca, it was wonderful spending time with you on this International Punch Needle Day. And it's even earlier for you, 2 hours
Yeah,
earlier, right? So it really was breakfast for you. It's more of
yeah.
lunch for me. Thank you all for logging on and spending time for us. We are the opening act for the main event, which is the Oxford event that will happen between 1 and 4 Eastern Standard Time. I know that you'll be logging on with our mutual friend, Robin Whitford, and
Yeah.
her beautiful pattern that she has set out for the year. She's the ambassador of the year for Oxford. We were just here to keep you company this morning. Spend some time, but we wish you a wonderful afternoon. Great productivity today. Hope you get a lot of instruction, make friends, have fun, and I will be back with you on Monday when we look at the new issue of ATHA. That will be coffee time at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be looking at the new copy of ATHA magazine on Monday. Rebecca, we will see you soon,
Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah. And then I'll be posting about Lucy and her adventures on my Facebook and Instagram at Storyteller Wool.
That's great. And we'll see what you end up doing with Lucy and where she ends up taking you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds great. Well, everybody, happy International Punch Needle Day. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we will both see you soon. Take